talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
to our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits.
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary Dog.
Blurson and Blursball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight we are concluding our brief look at the IP that is the Three Caballeros, who are Donald Duck, Jose Carioca, and Panchito Pistoles, as we review in totem Legends of the Three Caballeros, brought to you by the good people at Disney Digital Network, 6 Point Harness, Atomic Cartoons, Mercury Filmworks, and Disney Media Distribution. Joining me tonight, as she did on the source material, where we looked at the Don Rosa Library Volume 9 of Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck Collected Works, ladies and gentlemen from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. Arriba!
Hola!
Yes. Could we be any more white?
That's as far as my Spanish goes. I took French.
How are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Been raining all day here in Kansas City. The sun's finally coming out, and it's coming out just in time for it to set.
Oh, goodness. So,
yeah.
If you hadn't had an opportunity to listen to our source material on the Three Caballeros Ride Again, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to listen to that, real quick, what is your history with the Three Caballeros? There was the original movie, which I believe came out in 1945, which is sort of like a travel, weird travel movie, kind of like, hey, come to Mexico, here's a cartoon character, Donald Duck traveling through Latin America, and then they took part of Epcot Center, the Mexico Pavilion, and turned it into a Three Caballeros boat ride. So, what is your experience with the Three Caballeros?
Well, it was actually 1944, not 45. But close. Yeah, you were close. I was introduced to the Three Caballeros through the Disney sing-along videotapes that used to come out in the late 80s, early 90s. I had a big collection. My parents bought a ton of them for me. God, just using the phrase videotapes makes me feel so ancient. And on one of the videotapes was the theme song to the Three Caballeros, and I'd always sing along with it, even though I had absolutely no idea what it was. I just recognized, oh, there's Donald, and they're singing. It's funny, ha ha! Got a little older, and I was finally introduced to the film, which admittedly is a very strange film if you don't really know what you're going into. Disney did a lot of edutainment films around this time. And the Three Caballeros was definitely one of them, and it's very interesting. It doesn't seem to have a set focus specifically. It's still very well done, got some really funny scenes, and considering this came out in the 40s, and we've got these fairly seamless scenes of animated characters interacting with live-action people, that's very impressive for the time. So.
I remember seeing the movie probably on, Wonderful World of Disney or something. I've seen it a couple of times since my kids were born. They enjoy it. We have done that Mexico ride, I don't know, a zillion times, and it makes me laugh every time. My wife's in the background yelling, it's the best. So, The Legend of the Three Caballeros originally was broadcasted, I believe, in Brazil, and then it was repurposed as, exclusive for Disney Plus. And I ran across it, not even looking through Disney Plus. I was on the wiki for original programming on Disney Plus, and I saw The Legend of the Three Caballeros. I'm like, I have to talk about this. I have to talk about this with Alexis Hejna. Quick aside, for those that don't know, what are some of your favorite Disney afternoon, Disney serial cartoons? Some examples would be like DuckTales or Darkwing Duck.
Well, again, child of the 90s, Disney Afternoon was a staple of me growing up. Didn't get a chance to get into the early DuckTales as much as I should have. Now, I will say that I've been watching the new DuckTales religiously, and I love it. But I was a huge fan of Darkwing Duck, watched that religiously. Gargoyles was, oh my God, probably the greatest thing I ever watched as a kid. Absolutely loved it. And I also really enjoyed the Aladdin TV series. I loved how creative it was.
So when I was a kid, and there was the Disney Channel, they had a half an hour collection of old Disney shorts called Donald Duck Presents. Do you remember this? Donald Duck Presents, na 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 na. Donald Duck Presents, da 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 da. Donald Duck Presents. No, nothing.
Should we remind the audience our age differences?
No, we should not. I'm old. That's all they need to know. I'm getting older every day. So this was before your time, but it was a collection of Donald Duck cartoons, which I used to. Those were my favorite Disney cartoons. Of the original series of shorts featuring Mickey or Goofy, Donald, Minnie Mouse, Chip and Dale, or some mixture of those characters. I loved the Donald Duck cartoons. I used to love the Professor, Uncle Scrooge, like the whole Duck Clan. And then my second favorite were the Goofies, but specifically the Goofy how-to videos. Like how
to ski, how to swim,
Yeah.
how to ski and the how to dance are two of my all-time favorite Goofy shorts.
Yes. The only other ones that I think are in comparison to that are Goofy, the Goofy Mr. Wheeler ones. And Goofy turns into Mr. Wheeler. Get out of the way!
Oh, yeah, the road rage one.
So
Oh,
funny.
and of course the no smoking one. That's
Yes.
hilarious.
But getting back, so when DuckTales came out, first there was the TV movie, then there was the show, and I was actually an avid fan of DuckTales for however old I was when it came out. I watched it. I watched it pretty religiously. I watched Darkwing Duck. I thought that was hilarious. I watched Rescue Rangers with Chip and Dale because I was a big fan of them as well. I didn't watch Gargoyles. And I tended to not watch like Goof Troop and all of that. I think at that point I was sort of aging out of those cartoons. But I've all this to say, I'll go wherever Donald Duck goes. Whatever he's involved in, either tangentially or directly, I'll at least check it out. So when I saw this Legend of the Three Caballeros show, I'm like, I've got to see what this is, what all this is. Considering I love all these characters, and I was like, well, I'm sure Alexis is into it too. Had you ever heard of this Legend of the Three Caballeros show?
Yes, actually, I had. I'm part of a group on Facebook of animation historians, and a handful of them are just total cartoon geeks, like myself. And the very first episode, the pilot, was someone found a source for it, put it on YouTube, and shared it. But I had no idea what the theme of anything of this show was, so when they started talking about it, I was like, what the hell am I watching? And then when Xandra showed up the first time, I was like, okay, apparently this is going in a very different direction.
Yeah, and so that's what we're going to spend the next hour, 45 minutes talking about, is the 13, it only had one season, much to my son's chagrin. These were about 22-ish minute episodes. I said Brazil before, actually. I should have said it actually debuted in the Philippines in 2018, and then on Disney Channel in Southeast Asia, January 1st, 2019. And then it appeared on Disney+. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. For some reason, I thought it had debuted maybe in Brazil originally, but I think I was mixing that up with a couple of... It's very strange when you get these shows that were clearly made in America, clearly voiced, this isn't overdubbed by American actors. This was made with American actors. And yet they originally didn't plan for it to be released in America. And I can't really find any sources that say why or how this worked or what the plan was or anything. It's so bizarre.
Yes, indeed. All right, so the premise of this, and I'm just going to read right from the wiki here. When Donald Duck inherits a cabana from his great-grandfather, Clinton Coote, in the new Quackmore Institute alongside Brazilian parrot Jose Carioca and Mexican rooster Panchito Gonzalez, or Panchito Pistoles.
Yeah, Jose, apparently we in today's PC age, we can't call him Panchito Pistoles anymore.
They discover a magical book that, when opened, releases a goddess named Xandra. The goddess explains that Donald, Jose, and Panchito are the descendants of a trio of adventurers known as the Three Caballeros, who long ago traveled to stop the evil sorcerer Lord Feldrake from taking over the world and ultimately sealed him in a magical staff. Meanwhile, the staff containing Feldrake is discovered by his descendant Baron von Shellgoose, the corrupt president of the new Quackmore Institute. As Shellgoose sets out to revive Feldrake, the new Three Caballeros must learn to become heroes and save the world from disaster, specifically from Feldrake. So this has got quite the cast.
I gotta ask the first question. The whole thing about the Quackmore Institute. From what I can see, this institute is essentially just a neighborhood, a fenced-in area, like a fenced-in neighborhood. But I can't really get where calling it an institute comes from. Is this a familiar term in maybe that I'm not familiar with?
There's a show I used to watch. I can't remember the name of it now. That was on the Sci-Fi Network, where the whole city was set up for scientists, and they all worked for the government. And so like there was a sheriff of this town, but basically, like, it was just a series of big and small labs and facilities dedicated to research and development for this government institution, all in this one town. So I kind of assumed it was something similar to that the new Quackmore Institute was this town sort of dedicated with a bunch of professionals and dedicated to this one particular pursuit, which they don't really get into what it is. I kind of assumed it was antiquities, but who the hell knows?
Possibly. Again, it's just not a term I really hear. When I hear institute, I think either a college or straitjackets.
Well, it wasn't straitjackets, at least not yet.
Yeah. Well, with Donald as the new president, it probably will be.
So, as I was saying, the main voice cast is pretty good here. I mean, they didn't spare a tremendous amount of expense. They got Tony Anselmo, who is the official voice of Donald Duck since 19... You have Eric Bauza, who's a Canadian voice actor and stand-up comedian. He's been on The Fairly Odd Parents, Super Jail, a bunch of other things.
He's currently voice of most of the Looney Tunes. This guy is quickly becoming one of the de facto go-to voice actors available right now. He's been in pretty much anything since for the last, like almost 20 years.
There's Jamie Camille, who was on Jane the Virgin, among other things.
Slight note, he is a Brazilian Mexican actor, so it is pronounced Jaime.
Okay. There's Grey Griffin, who is an American voice actress and comedian and singer-songwriter. She was on The Fairly Odd Parents, The Grim Adventures of Billy and somebody else.
Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. She was also the voice of Azula in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was in again, she is one of those big de facto voice actresses.
And here's one for you. This should make you giddy. Tress MacNeille as Daisy Duck.
The current reigning queen of the voice actresses. She has been the official voice of Daisy for a while now.
She was Dot in the Animaniacs.
Babs in Tiny Toons.
That is correct. And we have Jessica DiCiccio. She's on The Buzz. She was in Adventure Time, The Loud House. You have Dee Bradley Baker, who was in Avatar: The Last Airbender, American Dad, SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
D. Bradley Baker is often considered to be second only to Frank Welker in his vast array of voice acting experience. He is he can do pretty much anything or anyone, and he is an expert, like Frank Welker, at doing animal sounds. Hence why we got him as Ari the Akuna bird.
And then you have Wayne Knight, who's in that meme that your aunt shares that ends with "Nobody cares" from Jurassic Park. Come on, you know that meme. Hey, this guy ... See, nobody cares. That's what he's known for now.
And no, Wayne Knight actually has done a lot of voiceover work too. He has a real talent for playing a villain in voice acting. He's just got this great way of kind of having an almost undertone growl to his voice. It's so much fun because he just sounds like he's not only being evil, but he's enjoying being evil. He's really able to make that work, and I love it.
And so I kid about him being a meme, but he best known for being Newman on Seinfeld, for all you 90s people. He was in Jurassic Park, as I said, which is where the meme came from. And he's done a lot of character actor work. Then you have Kevin Michael Richardson, who's a comedian, and he voiced the Joker in The Batman from 2004 to 2008.
Again, he was also the voice of Goro in the live-action Mortal Kombat film.
And finally, we have Jim Cummings as the Bear Rug.
And don't even bother trying to look up what Jim Cummings has been in, because we're going to be here way too long.
So for voice actors, this is pretty stellar cast.
Mm-hmm. All
right, so we have the premise, we have our cast. We start the first episode, Dopacabana. These are some great
puns.
Episode titles. Is our setup. It's the worst day ever. It's Donald's birthday. And
Friday the 13th.
Yes, and he just wants to have a big breakfast and eat pancakes, and it's his day off, or so he thinks. But he has to pick Daisy up from a sketchy part of town where she's at a phone booth so that they can spend the day together. But then his boss calls, and he works at a barbershop, and he's like, I've got a bunch of kids, you got to cut hair, fuck your day off. And he's like, all right. And so there's that. He leaves a tea kettle on, so his house burns down. So in short order, Daisy breaks up with him because he ditched her in a sketchy part of town at a telephone booth. He gets fired because he messes up a kid's hair. The kid was being a brat. Yeah, the kid was fighting with him. And then his house burns down. And so he's sitting on the curb. What's a duck to do? When he gets a telegram that says, hey, you've inherited from your great-grandfather, Clinton Coote. And so he thinks, and this is great, I'll stop here for a moment to let you chime in. He thinks what he's inherited is what turns out to be Baron von Sheldgoose's mansion, and he makes himself right at home. So coming out of the gate here, and this whole bit that he does with Sheldgoose, what'd you think of all that?
I thought that was hilarious. I love how he doesn't even question why there's someone else in the house. He's just like, nope, mine now. Watch it, bitch. It's so funny how cocky he gets, but that's part of Donald's charm, is that when Donald thinks he's on High Street, he puffs out his chest and he is not thinking straight, and I love it. And I do love it. It's like, no, you're at so-and-so and an A. Then Donald realizes he never moved his thumb off of that corner of the page.
Yes.
And he's been hiding that fraction the whole time.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. Like, it's almost sad the way it starts, you know. Daisy, I got a lot of Daisy from watching Minnie's Boutique on Disney Junior with my kids. And Daisy on that one is more lighthearted and kind of ditzy. You know, Minnie's the one that's kind of holding everything together because it's her show. Here, she's kind of played as a bitch. Like, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I thought it was kind of funny they started with his birthday, because if you remember in the Three Caballeros film, they actually do confirm that his birthday is Friday the 13th, which, let's face it, explains everything.
It sure does.
But yeah, in classic cartoons, Daisy was a bit bitchy. I remember handfuls, but it wasn't so much that she was just an aggravating bitch. It was more so she's got to put up with Donald, and you can tell that it's wearing on her last nerve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were talking just the other day about a classic Donald cartoon, Cure Duck, where Donald comes over and she asks him to open the window, and he can't get it, so he destroys her house.
Daisy, it is the new me. Daisy, it's the new me. It's the new me.
Yeah, and that was. There's another great Donald cartoon. I think it's called like Donald's Double or something, where Daisy starts off the cartoon just yelling at him on the phone and says, "Until you basically learn to talk straight and develop a more pleasant personality, I don't ever want to see you again." And she hangs up so hard that it actually explodes the phone in Donald's face.
So part 2 of this episode, second half, is he finally gets to the cabana when he realizes that it wasn't just left to him, it was left to Jose and Panchito. And Jose is played in this series as not a total dope, but he's not a straight man either. He's kind of almost like a Charlie Sheen type character in Menly Men, that one.
Men, yeah.
Which one? What's the name of it?
2.5 Men.
2.5 Men, yes.
That show's been eradicated from all of our minds ever since 2 of the actors left. Well, one got fired and one quit.
And one is currently Lex Luthor.
That's the thing. One went insane, the other one quit, and the third became Lex Luthor.
Right. But yeah, he's kind of like a Charlie Sheen on that show type. He's sort of a lovable gigolo. Not too stupid, not too smart, just kind of, hey, want a party? He's kind of that character.
Yeah, they establish him as being overly trusting, and he's also kind of a bit of a mediator. He does the most talking out of the group, without question.
And then you have Panchito, who's kind of the Kramer of the group. All these old '90s references, boy. If you're under the age of 35, you're not getting any of this. He's kind of a lovable dope. He gets a lot of the punchline jokes. Where like da 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 da, and then he says something, and I'm a toaster oven, that kind of a thing.
It was great hearing Jaime Cahill do the voice. He was previously cast in the new DuckTales reboot as Don Carnage, which was so much fun. I mean, you could tell he's having a ton of fun doing this voice acting. Not to mention, it was kind of fun to get an actual authentic Mexican actor playing a Mexican character. So,
yes.
There's that.
Inclusion, when you can do it and it makes sense, is fine with me. So that's good. I was happy to see that. But yeah, they play him as sort of a lovable dope. And that's kind of it. You have Donald, who is your central character, and he's split in a million directions. One, he doesn't really want to be a part of any of this. He was a barber, and he had a house, and he had a life, and a girlfriend, and he just wants to get back to it. And so this whole show kind of revolves around the hero's journey for Donald. And then he's accompanied by the romantic and the dope. And they kind of play off each other really, really well. This is where... Now, we also get introduced to... And I thought this was an odd choice, and I want to get your opinion on this. I also want to get some history, if you have any. So, historically, Donald interacts mostly with either Chip and Dale or Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and they've always been written to his shorts as foils. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are either bullied by Donald, and then they turn around and get revenge on him. So think Witch Hazel on Halloween. The kids are out trick-or-treating, and Donald, I think, takes their candy. And so...
Yeah, that's the trick-or-treat. That was actually June Furay's first job voicing Witch Hazel, before Warner Brothers came up with their own Witch Hazel in Bewitched Bunny.
So they spend the rest of the short teaming up with Witch Hazel to get the candy back and abuse Donald. And so, as opposed to Mickey or Goofy, Donald's always kind of the villain of his own cartoon. Or they flip it to where Donald's doing a thing, and without really being malevolent, he runs afoul of Chip and Dale. So think nut butter. He's going to I can't remember the name of the cartoon, but he's going out to the trees, and he's been shown that this is a way to make a living. So he goes to the trees, and he drills into the trees, and he takes the acorns, and he makes essentially it's not peanuts. He makes acorn butter out of it. And of course, the one of the trees he picked to take the acorns is the tree that Chip and Dale are living. He wasn't aiming to mess with them. He just kind of happened to do it. And so they spend the rest of the episode trying to get his nut butter, trying to get their acorns, and it just becomes a mess for Donald Duck. This is an ongoing thing. But I brought all that to mention that Donald typically doesn't interact, and I have very rarely seen Daisy's nieces, April, May, and June, but they're like the Felicity to the Three Caballeros. They're at home, like manning the home base, delivering information to the heroes who are out in the field fighting the villain. They're a pretty big part of this, and I don't remember them being a huge part of like Disney cartoon canon.
They weren't. April, May, and June were created and brought in whenever they needed foils specifically for Huey, Dewey, and Louie. That's more or less what they were there for. I'm honestly not sure why these three these three showed up here and it wasn't Huey, Dewey, and Louie. But part of me is wondering if A, it was because they were also doing the DuckTales reboot around this time and they didn't want people to get confused, or B, there was a push for more female characters, which is where you got Daisy and Xandra. But still,
you can never have enough female characters on your show, Alexis.
Get what I'm saying.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I think it's the latter and not the former. I think when they were putting together the show, I think there's two things. Historically, Huey, Dewey, and Louie are trying to mess with Donald. And even in DuckTales, they were on adventures with Uncle Scrooge. Donald was in the Navy. Like, he was on a ship somewhere. That was the premise of DuckTales. That Donald couldn't take care of his nephews anymore because he had shipped out. So they had to go live with miserly Uncle Scrooge, who they found out was Indiana Jones. So I think partially the DuckTales things is true, but I think it's more of they just didn't want to repeat the same premise of DuckTales of here's Donald and here's his nephews. But I also think historically his nephews tended to fuck with Donald and not be particularly helpful. So I think they needed somebody to be in the house doing stuff, and I guess they figured, well, we never use these characters very much, and we need more girl characters, so sure, this will appeal to that demographic. Here's three tweenish girls with cell phones giving Donald sass, but mostly being helpful.
Coordinated cell phones.
Yes, color-coordinated cell phones. Giving Donald a bit of sass, but mostly being helpful. So I guess that's my next question. Over the course of 13 episodes, what'd you think of April, May, and June?
I was waiting for the reveal that you take off their bows and it's Huey, Dewey, and Louie after breathing helium. Nothing wrong with these girls. They're fine, but they're bland. And I think they were meant to be bland. These were not meant to be standout characters. Again, they're just meant to be there manning the home base. They don't have distinctive personalities apart. We joked during the Three Caballeros, right? Oh my God, I'm going to mess up so many Spanish words. I'm going to hate this review. We joked in the Three Caballeros, right, again, about how sometimes Huey, Dewey, and Louie were pretty much a hive mind and didn't have, separate personalities. The same can be said for these girls. They are not distinctive. They are just tween kids. That's it. Yeah. They're all voiced by one voice actress who, credit, she does manage to do a different inflection with all three. So there is some talent there. It's not just like they all three sound identical. There is a slight difference to their voice, but it's just, seriously, I sat back saying, it's like, I was seriously thinking, you got through this entire thing writing the script and getting ready to record the lines as Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and then someone stepped in at the end and told you to switch it to April, May, and June, and you just didn't switch any of the dialogue. You just told the voice actor you don't have to lower your voice.
Yeah.
Because
I would not be surprised if that were a studio note and the original script had Huey, Dewey, and Louie in it.
I mean, there is no part of this at all that I would actually say, no, that is definitely something that Huey, Dewey, and Louie couldn't say.
Yeah. Again, I never found in either the shorts or DuckTales to where Huey, Dewey, and Louie they always had a very antagonistic relationship with Donald. And I feel like it almost would have been out of character to put them in that role. That's, I think, the only difference, is they really needed a home-based character to be helpful, and they were like, well, Huey, Dewey, and Louie are never helpful. They're always fighting with Donald. They're always trying to get one over on him. We need a characters that don't have that established animosity. And so you kill two birds with one stone. You bring in the girl audience because this is a very boy-dominant, oriented show. I mean, you have Xandra there, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think, like we've talked many times in the past about like Pixar and Disney animated features, about how they tend to really know how to capture a wide girl audience, but struggle with appealing to boys. And I'll tell you, they hit a home run with this one. At least in my house, my son loved the shit out of this show. My daughter enjoyed it, and I think she liked the April, May, June characters. But my son was like, when it was over, it was like, we have to get a second season of this. Like, he was pitching ideas at me. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I can imagine the stories he was pitching.
So, when this episode ends, they find the book, and out jumps this magical goddess, and she, of course, attacks them because she, they are not the Three Caballeros she is aware of. Which takes us to episode 2, Labyrinth and Repeat. And this is where we get some information about who she is. She is Xandra, and she's the goddess of adventure for all the girls out there.
I think she was Xandra, for the record, is not a real goddess. I think she was supposed to be sort of a play on Athena, especially with the bow. So, she delivers information. She kind of, takes us, what is basically this show about? She kind of tells you what it's going to be about. Just going forward, what did you think of the Xandra character? She wasn't bad. It took me a while to get used to the voice acting because Greg Griffin was essentially just recycling her voice as Frankie Foster from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I mean, no difference whatsoever. Again, she's a great voice actor, but I'm sure you know what I mean when I say sometimes you have a voice actor who does the exact same voice for multiple characters, and it takes you so long to get used to. It's like, no, this isn't the old character. It's someone different. You know what I mean?
Yes. I liked her. I didn't think she overshadowed. I think there needed to be a guide character for the Three Amigos. I think there needed to be kind of an Obi-Wan Kenobi there to be like, this is how you become a hero. I think you needed somebody to deliver... I keep saying information. What's the real word I'm looking for?
I don't know, but I'm now marking a check. You officially called them the Three Amigos. I knew you were going to do that at least once.
Damn it. Not a lot of oxygen to the brain these days.
Well, I knew it was going to happen at least once. I knew we were going to screw it up. No,
something
we
dumb.
Did
like whenever there's a
exposition dump.
Thank you. She's there to deliver a lot of exposition and to guide our heroes, corral the cats in the right direction.
I'm not going to lie, though. The scene where she lays out the map and explains how it works, all I could think was, okay, now press X press X on the first location, and then we'll be off. Press Y to skip this cutscene. It was so video game-like. I was just sitting there going, oh, my God, just, somebody turn on my Xbox without telling me.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised there's not a video game of this.
That seemed scream video games, didn't it?
It totally does. Like, honestly, it almost screams more video game than it does cartoon.
I thought so too. I really think this would be a kick-ass video game. Do it in the style of Kingdom Hearts. It would be amazing.
No, I actually want to understand what's going on.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Good. Someday you can explain to me the plot of Kingdom Heart and see if I don't get a nosebleed. But today is not that day. So
no thanks. I'd rather not be the cause of your death. Okay.
So they go to Crete. This is their first mission, and they have to fight a Minotaur in a hidden labyrinth. And this is a team-building exercise. This is also an opportunity to prove to Xandra that they are the rightful heirs. They have to find the 3 magical amulets left to them by their ancestors. While all this is happening, you have the misadventures of Baron von Sheldgoose, and one of the setups to this was he was going to buy the lot of their antiquities that had been left in the cabana for $1 million. But what he really wanted was the book, because the staff, he ends up buying the ring, a ring that's amongst all the junk. And he takes it home, and the ring finds its way to a statue, which then releases the staff, and the staff is possessed by the soul of Lord Feldrake, who tells him, you are my descendant, and you will do my bidding, and you will and you will get this book, and you will find me a body, and then we will conquer the world.
And let's face it, these two bickering is the best part of any episode.
Yeah, I laughed quite a bit every time the staff, this inanimate object, would bop him on the head.
Yeah, it's like, wait, it says we can't go there. That says staff only. Yeah, and I'm a staff. Clunk.
Yes.
No, I just love Kevin Michael Richards is such a great voice actor, and you could tell the director just said, "Open up the snark."
Yes.
He's so snippy, and it's great.
I want to talk about that for a minute, because there's kind of a Monster of the Week thing, but really the whole 13-episode arc is Sheldgoose trying to find a body for Feldrake to reanimate and take over the world, take over the universe, and the Three Caballeros trying to stop him.
It was interesting because most cartoon adventure shows, while a lot of them do have a continuing story arc that takes place over the series, they still have a couple of just random filler episodes or day in the life episodes that, frankly, you could probably skip and it wouldn't amount to anything. I mean, those are still fun episodes usually, but they are not crucial to the arc. You couldn't skip any of this. Every episode started where the last one picked off, and it always ended on a cliffhanger with Feldrake saying that he had another plan on how, and then he would start, and then the next plan would start in the next episode. This was a continuing story arc through all 13 episodes, and that's very rare for a series like this. Most cartoons will have at least 1 or 2 filler episodes.
I didn't know if I loved it or not. I mean, granted, there was a new monster and a new mission almost every episode, but Sheldrake was always there like Skeletor or Cobra Commander in the background doing a thing. And I was like, I kind of like the DuckTales approach of the Beagle Boys are out there, and occasionally they attack the Money Vault. But you've also got Magica Dispel. You've got the other, the one with the accent that's always messing.
Flintheart Glungold.
Yeah, there's always somebody out there for Huey, Dewey, and Louie and or Uncle Scrooge to deal with. And so the villains kept changing. They would rotate them around. It was kind of like the 66 Batman show. This week it's the Joker. Next week it's the Penguin. Week after that it's Egghead. And then the Joker comes back. And they just kind of keep rotating, And then as the series wore on, you get kind of weirder villains like King Tut.
Or
Egghead, yeah.
I am a huge Vincent Price nut, so of course that's the one I remember.
I'm trying to remember who the one with like the perfume was. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Or 97 varieties of Catwoman. So
my favorite memory is still taking my aunt to see the Lego Batman movie. You've seen Lego Batman, right?
Oh my god, I laughed hysterically at that.
The scene where they're introducing all of the villains and they just keep going and going and going. At the end of it, my aunt just turns and looks at me and I'm like, yeah, technically every single one of those is a canonical villain. I know, yes. Right?
I had to tell two of my coworkers about Condiment King.
Yes, the same thing. She just looked at me. She's like, "That's real." Like, technically, yes. That's one of my favorite memories.
Just getting back to this, we might as well talk about him now. What did you? You seem to have enjoyed the Feldrake, Baron von Sheldgoose connection. By the end of episode 2, they're a unit and they're off on their own mission, and they keep intersecting with the Three Caballeros. So, your thoughts?
They were a lot of fun. The two actors played off each other very well. I love the snarkiness. I mean, they're riding a giant, what do you call it? Monkey bat donkey rat.
Yes, monkey bat donkey rat, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's basically a gargoyle named Leopold.
I love it when he was calling him mommy and daddy.
Yeah, I love that, exactly, because these two act like the most the crankiest, bickering old couple ever. They're so much fun the way they play off of each other and just always yelling and snarking at one another, and it's so great. But yes, I think I would have liked a filler episode or two where they didn't appear. Not that I didn't enjoy them, but I think it would have added more to, okay, in the last episode they were just biding their time and planning things while the Caballeros dealt with something else. I think it would have added to them a little bit if maybe once or twice we didn't see them. Yeah,
by the end of episode 13, I was kind of burnt out on Feldrake and Sheldgoose. I think that was my point. I could have used a couple of episodes of, well, who else is out there that they might mess with?
Yeah, or maybe just the three of them dealing with something else in the cabana. Maybe they accidentally unleash another creature or something. The way the girls stupidly unleashed a dragon. Wow, that was a great episode. But my God, those three were so stupid in that.
Or when they animate the rug with the spark of life. I wish that
translation. One of the writers really missed the old Humphrey the Bear cartoons.
But I feel like we didn't need Sheldgoose and Feldrake in that. We just deal with the bear, which is hilarious, by the way. The bear. Right.
It's Humphrey the Bear from the old 1940s.
Yes,
and I did love it. I loved Ari the Akuna Bird. Again, the Akuna Bird was in the Three Caballeros original films. I thought bringing him in was kind of... He even sings the original song when he first appears, which is great.
Yes, and there's a lot of running gags with him fixing things and then breaking immediately.
Yeah, I love that. Or, hell, even dealing more with Xandra, training them. I think we get maybe 2 training episodes in the whole series, and I really would have liked to have gotten more of that. I mean, we've got that great episode where they go to Camelot and meet King Arthur, who is voiced by John O'Hurley, because, sweet Jesus, that was perfect.
All right.
Oh, my God.
So we got to move this on. Let's just quick talk about episode 3, which is really great. This is the one where the pyramids are actually rocket ships built by space mummies.
Because, of course.
And there's a giant robot army on the moon that Feldrake is trying to get to so that, they can execute his will, and the Caballeros have to stop him. This was a fun episode. I like the idea that the pyramids are actually rocket ships, as nonsensical as it was. And what'd you think?
I did enjoy that. I like the image of the space mummies. I love that one space the mummy flight attendant who comes out. That was a nice touch. Love the design of the pyramid rocket ships. Those were really cool looking. That was neat.
Next one is World Three Caballeros. They go to Rome, and this is where she meets the gods. And this is one of those episodes where I really like Xandra. There's another one where I think she has to go to a party, but because she's been trapped in a book for eons, and she doesn't quite know how to conduct herself. She's like a wild animal at this party. I really enjoyed that, but we're not there yet. This is the one where she's like, all right, I can finally get a break from you idiots, and I can go party with the gods of Rome. And it turns out they're old and they're doing farming and all of that. And there's a fun message of, you're only as old as you feel and as old as you act. And she kind of, ignites a spark with them again, and they help them fight Feldrake. It's a fun episode.
I have to admit, the only thing I had trouble with about Xandra was when she and the Caballeros are interacting frequently with the modern world, and no one seems to question. I mean, we established that this is the Disney Toon world, so everyone is ducks or geese or dogs or some anthropomorphic animal. And then you got Xandra, who looks like a human. And at no point does anyone say, so what the hell is that thing running around with Donald Duck, Jose the Parrot, and Pachito the Chicken?
Rooster.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes when she was interacting with them, I got a little too much of a Sonic 06 feeling in the back of my head.
Okay. I guess they figured, it's kind of weird they didn't make her like a goofy-ish dog-type character. But then, like we said in the book, Little Uncanny Valley when they tried that, in the Don Rosa library.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense the gods would look different than the other characters, but still, it just seems so out of place so often. I don't know. Maybe if someone had actually said, well, what the heck is she or something, or if, we could have changed her into an anthropomorphic animal of some kind, maybe it would have been a little bit less Sonic 06-y, as I'm going to call it.
The next one takes place on Easter Island, and I love this episode. I really did. These early episodes where they're first going out on missions were a lot of fun. I love the idea of the big Easter Island heads are actually full bodies, and they're there to stomp on the lava lizards to make sure they don't get out. That has that has to have been taken from some sort of folktale from the Pacific Islands. That's too good.
Totally, but what was up with the Lizard Queen? My goo! What am I watching here? That was so surreal.
The other side of this is where you get kind of the B plot of this show, which is Donald keeps trying to get away from the Caballeros because being a hero is less important to him than being with Daisy, and Daisy keeps giving him second chances, and he keeps trying in earnest, but the Caballeros keep dragging him away, and he can't tell her. This is, again, there would have been no show if these characters would just talk to each other. But this is the old, I can't tell you my secret identity because it'll put you in harm's way. So he can't tell her he's a Caballero. So when he keeps running in and out of the date, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? It's like Spider-Man or the Flash or something, running in and out while he has to go fight evil. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was a cute way to do it.
Which, let's face it, every superhero in the history of histories has done this episode. Everyone has had a thing where it's I have to do one thing, but I have to do another thing at the same time, and I can't tell one party about the other. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying we've seen it done a million times.
Sure. Donald got to be Spider-Man in this one. It's fine. The next one features Stonehenge, which, if you like musicals, this is the episode for you.
Yeah, somebody was a fan of The Hobbit.
So, Stonehenge is a secret portal to Goblin Town. And Feldrake gets there first. And so he influences them to put everybody in Goblin jail. And everyone breaks out into song. And it's hilarious. Feldrake unleashes an unstoppable war beast, and the Caballeros must recover Xandra's book and escape Goblin Jail before the beast reaches the portal back to Earth. This episode had me in tears because of like the ridiculous singing in it. I had a lot of fun with this. What did you think?
It was a lot of fun. The ending kind of reminded me of a classic Justice League Unlimited episode with Hawk and Dove, because the monster release is powered by conflict. So the only way to destroy it is to basically not fight. So the characters, just have to declare their love for one another, essentially, to get it to shut down. There's an episode of Justice League where Ares, the god of war, summons a creature that does exactly that. And the only way they're able to stop it is Hawk and Dove get there, and Dove just walks up and says, "I'm not going to fight you," and it powers down. I mean, it's a little more dramatic than that, but you get the point.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a lot. The music was a lot of fun. It was very cute. I love all the Telenova. So funny.
Telenovela, yes. The next one revolves around Mount Rushmore. After retrieving the Spark of Life, Lord Feldrick intended to steal from Mount Rushmore. The Caballeros are assigned to guard it, while Xandra and the nieces are at the Institute Soir. Oh, this episode, yeah. So this is the episode where Xandra gets all dolled up to go to this party, and she's like eating platefuls of cupcakes, and she's like party, and she doesn't realize she's at like an upper crust, black tie affair where she has to like compose herself. So that was a lot of fun.
Of course, this is also so we get the bear. I love how they did anthropomorphized animal versions of the presidents of Mount Rushmore. George Washington is a goose. Teddy Roosevelt's a pig. Abraham Lincoln. Oh God, what was it? Thomas Jefferson was, I believe, a dog. And George Washington was a duck. Abraham Lincoln was a goose. Yeah, that was great.
So we get a C plot here, where, so up to this point, Shell Goose has sort of abandoned whatever duties he had as the president of the new Quackmore Institute. And he's now being challenged for that leadership role. And he's like, yeah, Feldrake, I get it. You need a body. You want to take over the world. But, I have a life. I had a life before any of this happened. And I need to get to it because I don't want to lose this position. So you get some of that, and he has this antagonistic relationship with this Peacock character who is gunning for his job. That was a lot of fun. I thought that was a fun thing to throw into this. I don't know if my kids got it really, but as an adult watching this, I'm like, that's funny. And it's the only time Shell Goose had a spine.
Not to mention, again, it's fun to have Feldrake and Shell Goose just start bickering more and more, and I love how Feldrake's like, this doesn't matter anymore, and it's like, you're already a lousy president, and Shell Goose just does not want to hear that. Again, anything that adds extra conflict to those two is always fun.
So then we also meet, in the D plot, Daisy, who's had enough of Donald from their previous date that went awry, has started dating Dapper Duck.
Who I'm pretty sure that's the duck from the Donald's Double episode. I think that's the joke. And yeah, I love it. He's getting so romantic, like, oh, I love you, Daisy. I could never be without you. Sees a statue falling on her. Whoop, bye, and he runs off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dapper Duck is a dick duck.
The next one involved chalk drawings.
This one's my favorite.
All right, you go. I'm having difficulties here, so I'm gonna look at you. Sort of tell people what this episode's about and why you like it so much.
All right. Well, the Caballeros and Xandra travel to the Nazca lines. Beautiful natural drawings, and they enter this two-dimensional world where chalk drawings can come to life. The animators got to have a lot of fun with this because it is entirely done in 2 dimensions. The characters are just chalk drawings on a screen. But they really play up with the perspective and the idea that they can draw anything they want, and it is so gorgeous to look at. I love the scene where they grab some chalk and they're trying to catch Shell Goose and Feldrake, so they all start drawing their own flying contraptions to go after him. But we establish that Donald can't draw to save his life. So we get this great scene. They all jump on these chariots and fly away, and you look over, and Donald's just got the squiggly line. He's like, I'm still drawing!
Yeah.
He can't get up. Oh my god, that was hilarious.
I thought in terms of playing with dimension and space, this was a really fun episode. Like, this one was super creative in that, like, what can we do with these characters in this universe that we haven't done that no one might think of doing? And that's what I liked about the Nazca lines.
I will add, one nice thing about this episode is that so much of it, they're actually using real sites in America or in the world that would actually be interesting to historians and to adventurers. I mean, the Nazca lines are real geoglyphs in southern Peru, and I think it's a really cool idea because I knew a little bit about them, but not much, and I'm watching this thinking, wow, I bet a lot of kids would be, want to learn about the Nazca lines because this isn't something that comes up very often in, in American or in, just general history lessons. And I love how it's a bit educational on that ground. I like, we got the Easter Island, we got Mount Rushmore, we got Mount Fuji, we got the pyramids, we got Rome, we got Stonehenge. It's very nice. So,
the next one involves Panchito doing kind of
tell me this one was your favorite.
Oh, this was the one where Panchito has to have a wrestling match with Shell Goose.
Yeah, I watched that late. It was like, if it wasn't so late, I would have been texting Mark right now saying, admit it, this is your favorite episode.
Oh, this was great. Well, they had established even early on that they had established early on that Panchito kind of has a second career as a luchador. So this is the one where they actually got to use that. And so at first they're worshiping him, but they're fattening him up for the eventual slaughter, where he has to have a fight to the death with Shell Goose, and nobody can interfere. But like any good wrestling match, everybody interferes, and then the God of Death appears and kills them all as punishment for breaking the rules, which was like really heavy for a cartoon. Like, you knew they weren't going to be dead, but still, like I remember my kid's reaction, like what the fuck, dude? Like, did they all just die? Like, that's crazy. That doesn't happen in cartoons. That they were dead.
Yeah. I love Panchito. He was like, okay, we're just going to sit here and sit out the clock so we can die. That was great.
So the next one was kind of a continuation of that, Mount Fuji Whiz, where they're trapped in the underworld, and of course Feldrake and Shell Goose find a way to manipulate that, like you do, and they become like employees, and they're trying to stop the Caballeros from escaping, and meanwhile the nieces are having a seance to try to contact them. Eventually Xandra just goes to the underworld herself once she realizes they're there, and she helps them return to life on Earth, and then Feldrake and Shell Goose are kicked out of the underworld for being crap employees. This was fun.
It actually has my all-time favorite Panchito moment when they meet up with Clinton Coote, who was the great-grandfather who left them the cabana in the first place. And he's like, oh, so it's like I'm glad you guys are enjoying my cabana. How are my priceless figurines? And you have the scene of Panchito, what is he puts a pizza box down and knocks them all over. And Pito just looks at him and goes, nothing broken. It's just so random, but I love it.
All right, this next episode, I felt like I was getting kind of exhausted with the whole series. Like, I needed this to end. So I think if we could have cut an episode, it would have been Thanks to Camelot. I did not love this episode. This is the one where she feels, Xandra, after 8 episodes of this, like, now she feels like they need more training. So she takes him to King Arthur, but King Arthur is like a self-help guru now, and he's just wanting to hawk books and shit. And his knights, he's not being like abusive, but he's not really giving him good training. Like, there's an old story about the Ultimate Warrior.
They're doing trust falls, not sword fighting.
There's an old story about the Ultimate Warrior's Warrior Academy, where like you would pay like $1,000 and Warrior would show you a few things, and then he'd eat lunch and like, okay, we'll call you for the next session, and you never call him again. It was a big fucking, pyramid scheme, And I kind of got that impression with this. I mean, at the end of the King Arthur pulls his shit together and he's actually helpful. This is also the one where the nieces accidentally summon a dragon, like you do.
I have to admit, that just killed me when they're reading and they're like, "Oh, he's cute." I'm like, "Do you not get what you three are doing?"
And what I loved about that was Merlin was addicted to a cell phone game.
Oh my god! Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Seeing Merlin as essentially a combination of the Sword in the Stone Merlin and Archimedes as a blue owl. That part actually it kills me because this is actually a good episode, but I agree with you. It really came too little too late. Had this episode been earlier in the season, I think it would have been one of our favorites, but it was starting to wear on us a little bit, and I was like, okay, this really should have happened earlier. Because, again, you get John O'Hurley as King Arthur, which is terrific. And he's a lion, of course. And, yeah, you get Merlin addicted to the video game, and you get some pretty good action with the dragon. This really should have been earlier in the season.
Yeah,
especially
for sure.
since this is episode 11 of 13, and she's just now getting them training.
Yeah, this needed to be like episode 3 or 4. Like
Yeah.
after after the one with the Minotaur. Maybe swap this one with like the Egyptian space rockets.
Yeah, like I get that everything's been happening continuously. There's no time jumps or anything in this series. I get that, but it really should have happened sooner.
So this next one though was a bit of a switch from the way they had been doing things. In the previous episode, Sheldrake had stolen the amulets, and that's what they were going to use to give Feldrake his body. But Donald, who's been pulled in a lot of different directions, is still dealing with Daisy. And so they're like, look, we'll make final preparations to assault the mansion, and get the amulets back. Go deal with Daisy so that you're focused on the mission ahead. And I love this episode. And that might be because I already have a background in mental health. But I love the idea of, like we were talking about with Cure Donald, the idea that Donald has like a legit mental health issue, that he needs to work some shit out. And it's played somewhat for laughs. They're in this, they're basically like trapped in this, this camp to where they have to work on their relationship issues or they can't leave. And Donald ends up coming face to face with like this mirror image of himself that's this giant beast that's beating the shit out of him until he learns to take it and like control his temper. And then as Donald is able to just brush it off and not lose his temper, the thing gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then he finally like achieves the zen that had been escaping him, that had like been undermining his relationships. I'm like, wow, this is a fucking kiddie cartoon, and that's some deep shit.
It just made me really want a mud mask. Do you have any idea how long it's been since I've gone to the salon for a massage?
All right, that's really your takeaway?
I want a massage.
I'm sure you do, but you didn't see the greater mental health implications of what was happening here?
Yes, I did, but you tried going 6 months without a pedicure.
Oh my god. Okay. Why don't you have more girls on the show? This is why, ladies and gentlemen. Donald is dealing with his id and his superego, and can I just get a massage? Like, all right, fine. Let's move on. Anything else about this episode?
It is a really great... I really like the scene where Donald essentially just has a psychedelic trip, I think, is the way to look at it when he gets knocked out. And you just get this very surreal bit where he gets images of everything that's happened so far in the series and all the problems he's dealt with his boss and with Daisy and the Caballeros and Xandra and Dapper Duck, and how he's had so much trouble confronting all of his problems. So, all
right. So it's one of my favorites. It inspired Alexis to go book an appointment. It's fine.
No, it hasn't. It's not open yet.
Inspired. Didn't. You're the inspiration. Never mind. All right, moving on. So we get to our series finale, our season finale, however you want to look at it. Episode 13, Shelled Goose Square Dance. And this is like... Did Jim Lee write this episode? This was very like Cosmic Marvel Comics. They just like fight in another dimension, and they're fighting a giant Feldrake. And
wait, was Shangri-La-Di-Da or Shelled Goose Square Dance the one where we got the Scrooge McDuck cameo? I can't remember.
Scrooge maybe with Shangri-La-Di-Da. I don't remember.
I can't remember. I just thought that was great. They have to get past the mystic barrier at Shelled Goose's house, so they essentially combine all the mystic artifacts left in the house and make it into a magic cannon, for lack of better words. And it's so powerful, it blasts through the magic barrier, through the house, across town to Duckburg, and leaves a giant hole in Scrooge's money bin with all the coins falling out.
So, on the verge of defeat, they are contacted by Blazebeak, an ancient wizard whose power had been protecting them through their amulets. With his power, the Caballeros attempt to banish Feldrake back into his staff, but Shelled Goose destroys it out of panic and inadvertently restores everything to normal. His true nature exposed, the board members strip Shelled Goose of his presidency, and Donald is named the new acting president, to everybody's happiness. Sure. As Shelled Goose escapes on Leopold, he finds that Feldrake is now trapped inside his own body, and Feldrake decides to call in a favor from an old friend. So that stinger is what had my son going into apoplexy. Like, there has to be a second season. I'm like, there fucking isn't. But
there might be.
Oh, what do you know?
I did a little searching on what's on DisneyPlus.com. This is an actual website. When Disney Plus launched and the Legend of Three Caballeros got its release, the show's executive producer, apparently he tweeted, "Hey, Duck fans, do you want more hashtag Legend of the Three Caballeros? Of course you do. Spread the word and let Disney Plus know how much you like the show. It works. Then you can be an honorary caballero." And then on January 12th, he tweeted out, "Hoo boy, Duck fans, more good news keep rolling in. I still can't tell you, but I will very soon. Thank you for all your love and support." But that's all we've heard from since. Now, of course, not too long after January 12th, we have the COVID pandemic starting, so everything in Hollywood is on hold. But there is a chance, is that wood? Yeah, that's wood. Knock on wood, that we may be getting that second season. So tell your son there might be a chance.
All right, I'll tell him. He's already very excited about Sonic 2, so I'll have to let him know, if he's a good boy, Santa will bring him a second season of Legend of the Three Caballeros.
Yeah, if he's a good boy, cleans his room and stops jumping on your stomach.
I don't care about the jumping on my stomach. He needs to stop crying every time we tell him no. And he needs to stop watching Disney at night and then not going to bed and then being a jerk the next day. But enough about my son. All right, so overall, I thought this was a very enjoyable series. I really liked watching it with my kids. They enjoyed it. Seems like you did too. And if there's a second season, I would absolutely continue to review these. I'll give you the final word.
I really did love it. This is a beautifully animated series. And if you told me that they only got one season and didn't tell me why, part of me would actually wonder if maybe it was a budgetary thing, because they clearly threw a lot of money into this. It is gorgeous looking, and it is so much fun. Really enjoyed the characters. Voice acting all knocks it out of the park. It's on Disney Plus, guys. Go check it out. It is a lot of fun. And be prepared to have that song, Never, Ever, Ever Leave Your Head.
About halfway through, my daughter was like, I need a break from this. Just go, it has the feature you can skip the intro. And my daughter was like, skip the fucking intro. I'm done with this. And then
I have a strict no skipping intros on Disney Plus.
Towards the end, my daughter was like, I want to hear it again. I'll tell you what, though, when we did She-Ra, she was like, I want to hear it every single time. Well, mostly because she wanted to know where the characters would keep disappearing and moving to. And you can check out our thoughts on She-Ra Season 5 in the archives right here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network under the W2M umbrella. All right.
Plug.
So, speaking of plugs, If you enjoyed Alexis Hejna, and really, who doesn't, then she'll be on Source Material Live the day before my birthday, June 1st. We will be looking at the Catwoman series, Catwoman, When in Rome. I have had this on the calendar for like a year now. I'm very excited to finally be doing this, and I'm super happy that Alexis, after I got done twisting her arm, agreed to do it. So, thank Hoopla, thank Alexis Hejna, thank whatever God you believe in, and if you don't believe in God, thank the tree you're hugging, that Alexis Hejna and I will be reviewing Catwoman, When in Rome, on June 1st.
Especially thank Hoopla, because this book currently retails for over $50 on Amazon, to which I said, I love you, Mark, but not that much.
And speaking of I love you, Mark, June 2nd, it's my birthday. And how am I going to
be turning?
44.
Wait, I thought we weren't allowed to discuss your age.
No, I don't give a shit. I'm the old man of the mountains, and I don't want them painted. Now listen.
Oh my God. Lake? That lake? That's my lake.
Robert Winfrey laid out the challenge. I accepted. So I will spend my birthday, my 44th year on this planet, talking about Devilman Crybaby. I don't know why he's doing this to me. No, I do know why. That's a lie. But I don't back down from challenges, and so what better way to spend my birthday than accepting the challenge of this movie, this TV show will break your soul. My soul is too strong to be broken. So, tune in.
If working with the rest of us hasn't broken your soul already, nothing will.
So, tune in after June 2nd to the Radulich Broadcasting Network, and you can hear my soul stand up to the pain that is Devilman Crybaby. But then, it only gets better from there. June 3rd, Jesse Starcher is back, and he's better than ever. We're going to be talking Pirate Metal, Ailstorm, Curse of the Crystal Coconut. And Pat Mullinan is back. We'll be doing Chapter 8 of our History of Heavyweight Boxing. We'll be talking about Smokin' Joe Frazier. You can check out our review of AEW Double or Nothing, which was brought to you by Bugs Bunny. Myself and Chris Bailey reviewed that show. And if you enjoyed our discussion of the cartoon, The Legend of the Three Caballeros, then surely you'll enjoy our discussion of the Three Caballeros Ride Again on Source Material Live. That's up in the archives. So go ahead and give all those a listen, including all the other great shows on Radulich Broadcasting and the W2M network. As I'm sure you've heard tonight, I am struggling, but God damn it, I don't quit, and I push through. But I'm sure everyone's like, please shut up and let the girl talk. So girl talk.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was petting my dog.
Brilliant.
What? He has been quiet this entire review. He usually barks and interrupts us, so I figured he deserved a good ear scratch for being so silent. Thank you, Eddie. So, yeah, okay, moving on. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. Like I've been saying the last few shows I've been appearing on, unfortunately, due to the COVID breakout, all of our conventions that we know of at the present have been either postponed or canceled. We are still waiting to hear from some on what their final verdict is. We are literally just playing this whole thing by ear. Yes, thank you, Eddie. I knew he was going to get one bark in. Of course, our online shops are still open. You can find us on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We will be making announcements through Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. So keep attention to those to get any updates on where we'll be going, where we will be appearing, and just various pictures of Eddie trying to be cute, because sometimes I think his adorableness is all that I get my Instagram followers to actually pay attention to. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us on this TV party tonight for Legend of the Three Caballeros. For Alexis Hejna, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.